The really exciting thing is starting at the beginning of the month with a whole bunch of raw materials and seeing that sharpen up and sharpen up and sharpen up till you have an hour's performance that is really engrossing.
One of the big revelations has been how rich those shopkeepers' lives are.
A shop becomes a kind of place where people from that community can meet. It's also the public face of that community. It's also a way of that community embracing the wider community, and those are really interesting things.
Gives you the utmost respect for those shopkeepers, and it's such an insight, and I hope actually the production will be an opportunity to really share that insight into these people's lives. And gosh, you really admire them, I think.
I do think that notion that we can see ourselves reflected to the wider community, and we've got a place to meet, and it's a place where we can buy tastes of home. Those things are really very special to people and very important for them.
Back in the 60s, when my father first came over, the jobs were like factory jobs.
I don't want to be, working as a waitress up to, 35 or something like that.
A lot of the then new people that had come over had a dream that they would be their own boss and not have to take orders.
Never expected to be a shopkeeper, but John says this is our chance to better ourselves.
I first came over here on a working holiday to improve my accent, which is quite difficult because the black country accent is not like proper English.
I want to be my own boss.
I want to have children.
If I'm going to work this hard, I want to work for myself.
I want to know why he did it.
I speak English very well.
I was working as a waitress, but I wanted more.
They said, "What will you do?" I used to work in administration.
I'm not educated.
I have a degree, but it's not worth anything here.
I started to fall in love with the place. So many different people and different cultures. It is not like this in Poland.
Did you know? I am from a long line of shopkeepers.
I used to work in administration, policies and readings, papers, information. I will open a newsagent.
We are not going to be a newsagent. Early mornings and such dirty hands.
There's nothing for my community here.
My great-great-grandfather, he was the first one to open his own shop.
No Caribbean stores. We need something from home.
It's in our family. He sold dals, rices, spices.
Cow foot, chicken foot, frozen fish, patties.
Sweets and tobacco. And maybe just a few groceries.
I'll do it. Maybe they'll like something Polish here in England.
A bit of home from home.
200 years of shopkeeping running through our blood.
He died in that shop.
I am a businessman.
The whole process began with a whole sort of series of interviews where we trained up people from within the community to go and interview current shopkeepers and sort of previous owners of shops, small shops, so corner shops. That was the sort of start. That's the sort of starting point, is going and doing those interviews. But they actually formed the basis for us to create the production. So they're the source material for us to actually create the site-specific promenade production that we're working on at the moment. It's a very collaborative way of working. So our sort of first stage was very much sort of putting together with the writer who's scripting as we go along, and also with the designer and the musical directors, to actually look at the source material and to work out what the framework of this production would be. We're now actually starting to script it as we go along, working with the cast. And we're doing that upstairs whilst the design team are busy downstairs, madly creating the set that we will be using. And the key reasons that we're actually using the space we're using is because it's a disused shop. So we're actually working with the space we've got and creating the different sort of scenes within the space. So you work with it and you kind of create spaces suggested by the site you're working with.
I've just got a quick question about my line.
Yeah.
It is, I was working as a waitress, a full-time job and a part-time job just to survive. I wanted more to work for myself.
Maybe take out I was working as a waitress and say in Poland I had a full-time job and a part-time job just to survive.
Yeah, because a full-time job and a part-time job in England would probably be more than just surviving.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like it that you get the sense they're having to do. I wouldn't want to cut that line because I like that in there. But if you just put it in Poland.
Okay.
I had a full-time job and a part-time job just to survive.
Yeah.
But I wanted more.
Quite an interesting process really, because the whole of the project comes from the words of shopkeepers, real shopkeepers that have been interviewed throughout the West Midlands. And so really my job was to respond to the oral recordings of those people and what they had said, and then turn them into visual material for the show. So for an example, one of the shopkeepers said they'd been a shopkeeper since the Mughal times, and so that then gave me the idea that it would be fantastic to have a Mughal throne in one of the shops, and also really to use what they said but to not take things literally, to try and find quite abstract or quite very strong visuals to come from the things that people had spoken about. In lots of ways in this particular space it's been better than working in a conventional space, because we was told that the building, we could do anything we wanted with the building. So in fact you use that site-specific nature of the building. The staircase is already there, the fact that we could knock down walls, we could paint the carpet, we could throw paint at the walls, whatever, it didn't matter. So in lots of ways it's quite exciting to use that site-specific. I actually prefer working in this kind of environment than working in a theatre where often things are quite traditional, or kind of you expect something to happen in a theatre, whereas in an old shop you don't, and therefore to walk through those doors, those shop doors at the front, and then be confronted by a labyrinth of sets that take you on a journey, I think is far more exciting than sitting there in a theatre and in rows and watching a traditional piece of theatre. The audience come into the main area, which is a street, and I wanted to create within a building a sense of a real street, a dirty urban street, somewhere where rubbish bins and things, you know, have that feel, that sense, that smell of a street, if you like, which is the main area. And there's a staircase coming down into that street, which makes you kind of feel of underpasses and of also sort of urban markets, you know, those indoor markets that you can get in city areas.